Hello there. One form of freedom is point of view, considering things in your own perspective. If you have to consider it from another perspective, then you're not free, because that's, thought police. And so I try to look at things from different points of view. I like to hear other people's points of view, and I also like to challenge myself, play devil's advocate, shadow box. I've done videos about fight clubs where fighting is an analogy for debate, because how else are you going to get stronger if you don't constantly debate your principles and your logic? But I think that what's hemmed me up much of my life, and many others, I assume, is this notion that we pick our enemies, we pick our pitfalls, we pick our nemesis, we pick our exploits and our weaknesses. Like one end of the spectrum is, we're tempted, and then we give in to whichever temptation. But let's follow that one with pride. If your pride is wounded or attacked or threatened, then you have to respond somehow. Well, generally you would assume. Or malice. That's what comes next. If your pride is wounded, then you usually respond with malice. What am I getting at? I'm getting at that a lot of people are unactualized. I mean, I'm not going to say that I am, but I feel that I'm climbing that mountain. But when it comes to being actualized, look at it like, a game of logic, analytics like chess. Do you know what's at stake? Do you know what your opponent is? Do you know what the rules are? Do you know how to play? Why are you playing? What's the point? You got to know your enemy. Understand your enemy's tactics. Now, maybe you don't play chess, but you've played some game of paper, rock, scissors. Come on, you played a game before where you had an opponent and you had to beat them somehow because you wanted to win for some whatever fucking reason. Well, people, it turns out, quit on their main objective and then squabble over little things. Like, instead of fighting the champ for the prize, they fight all of the fucking wannabe welterweight soda popinskis, and they don't go for the heavyweight shot. And I think you get that metaphor, right? Like they squabble at work, or they squabble with their mechanic, or they squabble with the plumber, or they squabble on the fucking internet, faggot, bickering in chat rooms. And it's like women. Women are never mad about what they're mad about. Even if they sit there for 3 hours and tell you how mad they're about something, that's not really what's bothering them. Don't ask me any more about women, that's all I know. But they got fellas acting like sissies because they're running around getting all bent out of shape about this, that, and the other, and ain't none of them addressing the thing that's really most important, Guys punking out on the road to manhood because the same reason everybody always has punked out on it. They're afraid, they're timid, they're weak, they prefer comfort. Pussies. But, our society is inbred that into us, The Jews love selling comfort. Delivering's another story, but they love selling it. So we make our own enemies, is what I'm saying. That was a very long way to say that. But it's true, right? Like I've been saying in the GDL drama lately, hopefully it'll be over soon, that it really is principles over personalities. Because if you want to, defend your race, stand up for your God, advocate your gospel, if you want to save the fucking kids, then you really won't worry about what people are saying in chat rooms, and you won't worry about personalities, and I don't like this guy and he doesn't like me, and that's just not as cool as it should be, and it bothers people. No. we have a goal. You know, it's goal oriented. So stop picking your enemies and, you know, being dramatic and playing the fucking victim card and woe is me and getting the greasy wheel squeaky, you know what I mean. Because for somebody that is climbing the mountain, it's really easy to spot the ones that are just rubbing wounds and belly aching and calling it in. You know, here's how I operate. I wouldn't show the fuck up here if I wasn't keeping my bargain on my end, because I have that much dignity and self-respect. Now, do I need to broadcast what that is? No, I really don't. Am I advocating for my cause? Yes. Am I encouraging others? Yes. Am I promoting others? Yes. Am I entertaining other ideas? Yes. But don't you worry about this guy right here. He's keeping up his end of the bargain. But I do see a lot of people wanting to offer their input that aren't contributing, or that feel that their contribution is satisfactory and that bought their ticket and they're just going to ride the rest of the ride out. Well, if you believe a fucking word of what you're saying in a club that's all about conviction, then don't you need to exercise that fucking daily? Isn't white power and anti-Jewish sentiment a way of life? I don't think it's a fad, and I don't think it's cool to market it for financial gains. Merchandising, like, let me make something very clear. If you're putting gas in the vehicle for the cause, yes. If you're bailing guys out, yes. Money's a tool, it has to be. But if you're one of them Nick Fuentes fuckers, if you're one of these, I'm not going to go in and, I've already said somebody's name, I don't want to bring it up again, and I've dropped a couple names this week. I am not a gossip rag. We have to unclutter. I know a guy that worked for grocery for like 30, 35 years, and towards the end they would send him to other grocery stores and he would inspect them, you know, other counties or other hubs. And he said he knew all these guys. You know, he'd been going all the meetings, all the retreats, all the annual get-togethers for years. They all knew each other's first names. They go, oh, you work at store 675. Yeah, I work at 441, right? And he would go to inspect these stores, and he would walk up, and he would know where the manager would park and what kind of car he had. And he would always take a side step to just peek in the window of their car before he went in the store. And he said 100 times out of 100 he knew what that store was going to look like based off of the guy's car. Because when people have cluttered minds, they have cluttered lives. And when you have a cluttered life, you have a cluttered mind. And so if you look at that car and saw Burger King wrappers and cigarette butts and shit everywhere and the seats all ripped up and he just didn't give a shit and wires hanging, he's like, I know what this store's going to look like. But if he went out there and the car may have been like an 88 fucking Yugo or some shit like that, but if it was clean, tidied, orderly, you know, locked up, you know, like maintained, tires had air, and he knew that that store was going to be, he didn't really have to inspect it was going to pass. Because there's laws for everybody. That if you have a cluttered mind, you have to step over that to ever have a thought. If you have a cluttered room, you have to step over garbage to get out of it. If you have a cluttered desktop, you have to look through crap to find what you're looking for. If you have a cluttered personal life, if you have a cluttered social life, if you have a cluttered business life. Do you get it? So remove the clutter, and then there's back to that big part about, like, we are defined by what we fight against. Unfortunately, that kind of comes with the territory. So it is within our nature, and a lot of people volunteer for that. And I don't want to harp too long on it because it's kind of a complicated subject, but I will say this. I'll leave it kind of like a riddle, and leave it open for dialogue, because this is really where it's at here. How does a man establish himself or an ideology that is not in opposition of anything, how does it become perfectly fluid? Does that idea exist? Can a man possess that idea and adhere to it? Is there truly a 100% master form of Kung Fu where you can exist and fully take hold of this existence, but never find an external enemy? Because in the end, all of our enemies are internal. So how do you navigate this world, this reality, and your mind without ever being opposed anything? Like I said, I'll leave that one for us to discuss. Clear your mind. Don't fight personalities. Don't fight opinions. Don't fight drama. Don't fight social media. If anything, compete with yourself. If anything, fight misconceptions. I'll leave on a dark note, and I'll try to make it as light as I can. I swore off violence. And then my dog, who I had for years and years, got him when I was first in the Army. He went with me to Europe. He was there when my brother died. He was there through 2 divorces. He lived with me in a motorhome. He lived with me in an abandoned car. We ate out of the trash together. He's been across the country. He got sick. He got real sick. He got so sick that I knew. And my buddy had some morphine. So I took my dog out in the desert. I gave him that morphine. And then when he went to sleep, I snapped his neck. And then I buried him. I hate that I had to do that. But you know what? I don't feel guilty about it. Because, you know, I go into a prayer and talk about how God told me that that was mercy. But, you know, since then I've been like, well, then, is dropping bombs on Israel merciful? Like, but no, I don't want to go there. I mean to say that I was opposed to death. I was opposed to dying. I was opposed to losing my dog. I was opposed to violence. But then in that moment I switched it over to being, I was opposed to being transfixed in an unpleasant situation. I had to transcend. I had to move beyond it. I had to step outside of it. So my opposition kept me from moving forward until I switched my opposition to be that which was keeping me there. And so I buried my dog and I moved on. And I miss him very much. And I kept his dog bone and his collar, and he's my pup. I'm a boy and his dog. But it's a part of life. You know, everything dies. I'm grateful that I had him. And I feel that it went with dignity. Because part of loving something is accepting the fact that you're going to have to let it go. And if you fight the thing that keeps you from actualizing and becoming in nature, then you are anti-actualized, anti-becoming, anti-nature. You have to become whatever you were meant to be. Maybe this whole life in reverse is us just purging all of the pain that we've observed and gathered. Maybe it is. But look, pain's a part of the deal, and Tolkien wrote about a goddess, that took your pain and your tears and turned it into wisdom. That's the answer. There is wisdom in our suffering. If that wisdom's worth anything in the gift shop, I don't know. I love you guys. Keep the clutter out of your mind. Keep it out of your heart. Keep it out of your life. Cleanliness is next to godliness. If you can't find something to do, tidy up, brush your teeth, clear out your trunk. And know who you're fighting. Because 99 times out of 100, you're just fighting yourself. Give in. Give in to yourself. Find who you are, be that person, and then iron out those dents. Put Bondo in there, but at least be in the right vehicle on the right path instead of this pretentious fear. I hope any of that made sense. I love you guys. God bless.